Let's can some chili. We made a pot of chili and I am just getting it back warmed up on the stove. That's what we had for dinner last night. And I've also got my water heating up and my jars heating up because chili with meat is actually a hot pack. 75-minute process at 10 pounds of pressure. So that's what we're gonna do. My recipe is actually a venison chili, and it's a Rebel canning recipe because there is no venison chili approved recipe. So you can use an approved recipe or your family's favorite. Either way, it'll be delicious. Today we are pressure canning. So even if you don't have chili and you wanna just learn the techniques, some people are just such more visual learners. I know that's me. So I figured I would take you guys along for this canning adventure today. So let's get started. All right, so whenever I'm canning, my setup kind of looks the same. I've got this basket here that has all my canning supplies in it, which is great. I've got my ladle, I've got my mats that my hot thing's gonna go on in a nice clean area. And I pre-did some just vinegar so that I can use that. And I've got a cloth that I'm gonna clean with, and I'm definitely gonna be using that. Another must-have that I like is this, in case I put too much chili in, I can get it out very easily. And we'll use this to debubble, and I like to keep all this stuff right in here. First thing I did was I washed my jars. These are already been used. So I washed them, and then I rinsed them really well, and then I checked all the rims, and then I put them in my oven because this is a hot pack, and the easiest way for me to just get them warm is to just put them in here while my chili is warming up and my water's warming up. Now everything is already getting warm. Another way you could do it is in a thing of hot boiling water. Right, before we get into it, I just want to apologize for the enormous amount of noise that my stove makes. That fan is always on, so sorry about that. All right, so I just grabbed my chili and my jar. What I like to do to debubble is before I even move my ladle or my funnel, excuse me, I debubble right then and there. Because if I don't, you kind of get it dirty when you put the lid back on. Another technique I like to do to debubble is to just give it a couple shakes and a couple pounds. So I go right to my next one. I get this cleaned with my white vinegar. It's going right back onto my towel, and then I can grab my lid. Make sure it's on there good. Fingertip tight, which when the jars are hot, you know you only got it fingertip tight. And then we're gonna go right into the canner that has hot water in it, and I've got my thing on the bottom. And this is the 921 canner, and it takes 2.5 inches of water, which I've already got in there. Take this opportunity to remind you that this is a really clean process, and just make sure that your hands are clean and all the surfaces that you're touching in the meantime are clean also. And to be careful, these jars are hot. I like to go around, and like this one was dirty, and I know it's dirty, and there's dirt on, like, not dirt, but chili. Chili on the napkin. So then you kind of start over because you don't want any food particles, because it could make that seal not have good contact. All right, and this is our last one. What the heck? Oh, there's another one in there. That's happened to me where two stick together and it doesn't can if you have two that stick together. And into the canner. So we ended up with 6. All right, so this is odd, but normally I can with a double stack. And instead of leaving these, because there's so much room down there, I'm gonna give this, just because I don't want them to flip over or anything. You don't have to do that. Just an extra precaution I'm taking. All right, here's another important step, and I usually do it before I even start my canning process, but it is looking through this little tiny hole right here to make sure that there is nothing obstructing it. This step may seem like a stupid thing in this process, but if that little tiny hole is obstructed, it's the difference between canning food and making a bomb in your kitchen. So it's super important, and I say this not to be funny and not to make you scared. And I think this is the reason people are scared of doing this, is because they don't know how to can which is why I'm making this video. But that little tiny hole being unobstructed is a very important step in your canning process. I don't actually do it before I put the lid on. I usually do it before I even start canning. When I store this lid, it's in here upside down with all my bits and pieces inside. And so when I take it off and I have it in my hand, is the first time I make sure that there's nothing obstructing it. All right, next thing we're going to do is actually take a little bit of olive oil, and I'm just going to put it on this cloth here. And then there's two spots I'm going to use this, and it's where my seal is meeting. So I am just going to rub this whole thing all the way around with this oil. Right here, just all the way around. So I know that my canner, the label goes in the front, and there is a little divot right here. And that little divot is what you need to line up with this arrow. So you start it a little bit to the side, and then you click it over. It's so hard to do one-handed.
You're lined up.
So it's lined up. So what you want to do is you're doing a cross. You're such a good model, Kev.
I'll try.
Across, and you're not tightening them down. You're leaving them very loose right now.
It's like changing a tire.
Yeah,
You go around
exactly
the whole
like
cylinder.
changing a tire.
That way it goes down even.
It's, yeah, because if you do one side, this won't be the even space all around.
Then you go back and
Then you're going to go back and
lock 'em in.
tighten. Same thing, crosswise all the time. Tighten them down. And this canner, this is full blast right now. So full blast, and we're going to keep it full blast until this is streaming. I think I'll just show you guys the weight really quick. And this is a dial that has 15, a 10, and a 5. So depending on what hole you put down is how much. And for our elevation, it's always 10. But you can check what it is for you. All right, and this is the steady stream we've been looking for. So now we start the timer for 10 minutes. And the reason we want to vent our canner for 10 minutes is because before you vent it for 10 minutes, there's air inside. So what this venting does is replacing that air with steam, which is way hotter than air. So it has to do with like the internal temperature of all the jars. And so once you've been venting for 10 minutes, it's safe to say that all the air is actually onto that canner and you have moved on to the steam phase. 10-minute timer is up. So time to put on the weight. And now we wait. Here we go, guys. We're getting a little bit of action. It has been 5 minutes. And so we're getting a little rocking, and this is what we're looking for. So now we know that our pressure is building up, and you can see it's right at 10. So that's perfect. And we're looking for it to rock only 1 to 4 times per minute. So this rocking is a little bit much. So what we're going to do is we're going to back off on the gas a little bit. Just a little bit. And we're going to see what that does. And when you see it start to rock is when we're going to set our timer. Alexa, set a timer for 75 minutes. I want to talk a little minute about what this rocking actually is. And this has pressure in it. So what the rocking is actually doing is releasing some of that pressure. So that's what that little rocking is. So it's to keep it at 10 pounds of pressure. And you can see my pressure is going up a little bit. So I'm going to come back off the gas a little bit more because this is still rocking a little bit too hard. You want it to be 1 to 4 times per 60 seconds. So how you do that is once it starts rocking, so this is like still going. Once it starts rocking, you're going to start counting to 60. So, all right, so I did have to give it a little bit more gas, and I want to take note. Don't mind my dirty stove, guys. We've been doing a lot of cooking projects. And my thing is kind of off, but I noticed the angle that it's at. It's kind of almost in line with this arrow. So that's what I'm going to take note of this time. But know where the angle is on your stove because it's kind of going to be the same every time. So if you can get that down. And I've been averaging about 2 rocks per 60 seconds, which is kind of the average. So that's what I like to shoot for. But 1 to 4 is what it says in the book. Now we've got 75 minutes to kill. I don't even need to help this do anything. I'm not worried about this for the next 70. All right, the timer just went off, so we are turning off the heat, but we are leaving the canner alone. What I'm going to do is set my timer for 25 minutes. What we're waiting for is this temperature gauge to get all the way down. So this is down to 0. So the first thing we're gonna do is see what our weight is doing. And if it still is venting, nope, it's all set. All right, so now I've taken the pressure off and we're gonna give it 5 minutes. All right, next thing we're going to do is crack it. We're going to take all these off. I just want to note here that taking this lid off in time is super important, because if not, it'll form a vacuum and make it nearly impossible to get off. So after we crack the lid and let it sit here like this for 5 minutes, we then take the lid off for another 5 minutes. That is it, guys. We got them in here and they're going to sit here for 12 hours. I let them sit all the way out overnight. The reason they say 12 hours though is because check back in 12 hours. If anything didn't seal, that's the point where you want to put it in the refrigerator and still be able to eat it as yummy, delicious food. Don't mess with anything. Just let them sit and be fine and do what they need to do, because now is actually the time that they're going to be sealing. So thanks for joining us at the farm today, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a little bit on the long side, and happy canning.